member for Castries East and leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this morning, a Rasta friend of mine for a long time sent me a WhatsApp. And here's what he said. He said, "Bossman, do not try to give medicine to the dead." I asked him, what did he mean by giving medicine to the dead? And he said to me that what he heard yesterday was like a dead person trying to give himself medicine or trying to take medicine, but it was dead. So he advised me not to give medicine to the dead. But, Mr. Speaker, I have an obligation to the people of St. Lucia. I have an obligation to the 47,000 people who supported us in the last general elections. And I have an obligation to the people of St. Lucia generally. So I will try my best not to give medicine to the dead, but to highlight some of the inconsistencies, the unrealistic proposals, the bluffs, the fluff, and the flashing mirrors of this budget. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's 2020-21 budget is a naked admission of a desperate government on the verge of electoral defeat. Over the last 4 years, this government has wasted the opportunity given to it by the people of St. Lucia by squandering the resources of the country in a shameless, unrepentant show of preference for the infamous Friends, Family, and Foreigners group. While the vast majority of St. Lucians have been allowed to suffer, and in many cases intentionally. It is no wonder, with the next general elections around the corner, the Prime Minister is now asking for prayerful forgiveness. The government has a fundamental problem that has characterized its term in office. It cannot be trusted. The government has shown that time after time, it cannot be trusted. The things they say are hardly in sync with what they do or what is true. And when you think they are locked into an agreement that is signed, they renege against that agreement. Ask the St. Lucia National Trust, they will tell you, a leopard never changes its skin. Whatever has been promised in this budget is nothing more than just promises in the hope of seducing voter support at the next general elections. Let me say to this government, the people of St. Lucia will judge you by what you have done, or more appropriately, what you have not done over the last 4 years against what you have promised. You cannot undo the blight you have inflicted on the lives of St. Lucians by the harmful economic and social policies of your government, and still threatening to do so with new taxes on earnings of poor, hard-working St. Lucians engaged in the production of charcoal. Yes, Mr. Speaker, people making coals to sustain their families. The verdict is clear. The government has been a failure, and the people of St. Lucia know it. It is difficult not to recognize the manner this government flip-flops from one day to another. Government policies appear to be made on the fly with little thought given to the developmental of the people of St. Lucia. They continually make promises they do not keep or cannot keep. In their first year of office, they declared it was the year of execution, which turned out to be more destruction than construction. They destroyed the PPP arrangement for the redevelopment of the Ivanhoe International Airport. They abandoned the improvement plans for the Grosley-Castries Highway and the Administrative Center project in Vieux-Fort, and cancelled the CDB-funded project for the retrofitting of sodium streetlights into LED. And the Prime Minister yesterday speaks about the retrofitting of these lights. Mr. Speaker, on May 16, 2016, the Caribbean Development Bank, President's Recommendation number 921, paper BD 5716, and the bank agreed. The attached report appraises a proposal for a loan to the government of St. Lucia to replace all its high-pressure sodium and mercury vapor streetlights, approximately 21,500, with high-efficiently light-emitting diode systems. The expected outcome of the project is a reduction of St. Lucia's street lighting energy consumption and associated greenhouse gas emissions. The project will be implemented by the St. Lucia Electricity Services, LUCILEC. The project is estimated to cost approximately US 11.7 million, with counterpart contribution of Government of St. Lucia and LUCILEC of the equivalent 1.146 million. On the basis of the report, I recommend, and that is the President of the Caribbean Development Bank, a loan to the Government of St. Lucia of an amount not exceeding the equivalent of 10,603,000 from the ordinary capital resources of the Caribbean Development Bank. It is also recommended a grant of an amount not exceeding the equivalent of $30,000 from the CDB SFR allocated from resources provided from the grant facility for climate action support to the CDB. I also recommend a waiver of the CDB lending policies to permit the Caribbean Development Bank to lend the government of St. Lucia up to 90% of the cost of the project rather than 80%, and waivers of CDB guidelines for procurement. In respect of the procurement of LED lights and disposal of removed lamps, to extend eligibility to countries eligible for procurement under the EIB-funded projects which are not CDB member countries. The value of the waiver is US 8.5 million. To permit LUCILEC to apply the private sector procurement methods permitted under the CDB lending policies 2013 to reflect industry commercial practices on the terms and conditions set out and referred to. Funds are available within the CDB existing resources and a borrowing program for the relevant disbursement period. Mr. Speaker, that loan was approved by the Caribbean Development Bank in 2016, but LUCILEC was supposed to be the executing agency. And you may recall, Mr. Speaker, that in the famous Pajora letter, there was also talk of the replacement of LED lights, Mr. Speaker. And now, 4 years later, a government that speaks about energy saving and consumption 4 years later will reject a loan from the Caribbean Development Bank for the refitting of the street lights to get involved in some project by some company, and I'm not sure whether that was not part of the Pajora letter. Mr. Speaker, that is the reality of life in St. Lucia today, and the government wants the public to believe what they say. 4 years ago, look at the savings for the country that would happen 4 years ago, only if the government had allowed the Caribbean Development Bank to do the LED refitting project. And now, big hue and cry, the government is working because they are replacing the sodium lights in the country. Mr. Speaker, in the year of execution, they destroyed the PPP arrangement for the redevelopment of the Hirono International Airport. They abandoned the improvement plans for the Grosde-Cassis Highway and the Administrative Center project in Beaufort. And as I said, they abandoned the CDB-funded project for the retrofitting of sodium street lamps to LED solar energy bulbs. As I reflect, Mr. Speaker, on the Prime Minister's plea for forgiveness, I wondered whether he was thinking of the nice workers who were unfairly dismissed, or if you wanted to say the contracts were not renewed and became unemployed because they were deemed to be in the government's mind, Labour Party supporters. In the first year of execution, the school children of this country will not spread the mass destruction when they abandoned the laptop program, only to be reminded of the folly of their decision during the lockdown of the country brought about by COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, the government's second budget was presented under the theme confidence. Ironically, it was the same year the EU had St. Lucia blacklisted, and creditors were unwilling to roll over government bonds as they became due, forcing the government to call upon the funds of the NIC to avoid default. Around the same time, the U.S. State Department had begun questioning and raising concerns about our CIP program. By then, the government had withdrawn its confidence from the country's first Lady Governor General and replaced her with a retired politician who had swung from red to yellow hours after the results of a general election. As if to indicate to the people of St. Lucia where its confidence truly lied, the government of St. Lucia gave millions of taxpayers' dollars to a private profit-making operation, CHTTI, in which a government minister had a related party interest. Mr. Speaker, the level of misplaced confidence shown by the government in foreign investors with nothing more than ideas became more glaring and damaging to the people of St. Lucia, especially those on the south, when the government leased 1,000 acres of land at 99 cents per year for 99 years to a foreign friend. And then this foreign friend was allowed, given permission to sell our passports, the proceeds of which to be used to develop the said land. And then the government proclaimed the year 2019 to 2020 as the year of implementation. COVID-19 arrived in St. Lucia in the last month of that financial year as a major health and economic crisis. But it had proven to be more. It had betrayed the government's positive economic state of the economy as nothing else but fragile. In fact, the country was broke. It was only April, and the government is already asking public servants to defer 50% of their salaries for the next 3 months. The year of implementation had brought little relief to the people of St. Lucia. Instead, the country's level of indebtedness had increased significantly. More government borrowing was undertaken to finance non-St. Lucian consultancies amounting to over $13 million. The results were renderings of buildings and projects that have yet to be fulfilled. Since 2016, the farmers were promised new markets in Martinique and France for the bananas. In the year of implementation, not one hand of bananas has made the journey to the new market, a reminder of the empty promises that this government continues to make in the hope of securing voter support. The evidence of empty promises on the eve of general elections is now well known, and this government remains guilty of making empty promises. In the year of implementation, horse racing plans were to be completed and ready for the influx of hundreds of horse racing enthusiasts arriving on their private jets with hotel rooms overbooked as a result of what the Prime Minister called the spot of kings. 175 jets. Of course, none of that happened, except that the horses arrived, were taken to their homes with police escort, housed in stables, adequately stocked with water, while our farmers and local residents remain starved of much-needed water supply during a drought-induced water emergency situation. Even imported horses had been placed before the needs of the people. Mr. Speaker, this horse racing track, now a white elephant, has come at great cost to the people of St. Lucia. We have destroyed a meat processing plant, given up 1,000 acres of land, hastily relocated the only waste disposal site in Beaufort, and built a new road costing $13 million. Mr. Speaker, I would wish to reassure the people of St. Lucia that the Labour government will waste no time in investigating the arrangements surrounding the lease of that 1,000 acres of land from the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, just think for a moment how the people of St. Lucia could put to use 1,000 acres of land. The land space in our island is not finite. We only have a limited supply. Thousands of young St. Lucians, home and abroad, are wondering how and if they will ever be able to own a plot of land in the home of their birth or that of their descendants. Mr. Speaker, the cost of land is increasing, and our young people are truly worried. This area could be planned, developed for housing, for small guest houses, for restaurants, for commercial activities, developed and owned by the people of St. Lucia, and in particular, those who live in the diaspora. But instead, developed in a sense of fake hope in a project called the Pearl of the Caribbean. Mr. Speaker, this government has from 2017 played with the minds of St. Lucians with a fake promise that the new horse racing track, with all its supporting glitzy attractions, would transform the lives of the people in the south of the island. Done all in the hope of trying to secure the constituencies in the south of the island. I'm so encouraged by the awareness of the people of St. Lucia that they have been alert to the false and very often disrespectful promises made to them. It is no surprise that there is a new mantra around the country that this government must go. And so, together with all those in the House who have encouraged recklessness and bling-bling promises. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind the people of St. Lucia to the extent to which the Prime Minister had made promises of the activities that would happen concerning the now ill-fated horse racing track. And I want to quote from the Prime Minister's budget speech. And I quote, "Phase 1 of the project will be implemented later this year, all in relation to the racetrack, domestic international bans, equestrian lawns, equine clinic, quarantine ban, fractional ownership, homestead villa, racecourse boulevard, infield park and polo field, permanent grandstand, temporary grandstand during the construction phase. There will be an estimated 500 to 800 persons on site with a management team of 10 to 20 persons. Once the race course is operational, persons will receive training and employment in areas of horse husbandry, maintenance of facilities, and management of the race course and the training of the race horses. On the average, the horse racing industry employs 3 to 4 people for every thoroughbred. Such jobs being jockeys, trainers, band managers, groundkeepers, groomers, vets assistants, and blacksmiths. It is estimated that we will have 400 horses. Mr. Speaker, the DSH project will transform Beaufort from the ghost town that it has been under the Labour Party administration into a modern progressive city full of opportunities for its citizens. No longer will high rates of joblessness plague Beaufort, and no longer will the people of St. Lucia feel like abandoned children. This project will also make use of underutilized lands in the south, particularly in Beausejour, and create several ancillary industries and linkages with existing businesses. The opportunities this project presents are endless, and our government is grateful to the developer for expressing this level of confidence in our country and in our government to make sure such a large-scale investment here. We welcome this development and look forward to the job opportunities it will provide to our young people, particularly those from the south. These were the promises of the south because of those racing tracks. I want to ask any of the members opposite, has anything of that nature happened in Beaufort. No wonder this time we have dropped the horse racing track and we're into a restaurant in Choiseul. The horse racing track is off and we're dealing with a restaurant in Choiseul now. So no more horse racing, no more bands and no more hotels and jets. How many jets? 175 jets would have been in the island, and all the hotels would have been full because they would have been thoroughbreds, so to speak, and the place would boom, and we would lose all the seats in Beaufort because of these horses. Espoir, mal, papai. It's promises like this, Mr. Speaker, that continues to solidify in the minds of St. Lucia that the government is not trustworthy. And now, the time of reckoning is near, and they are prepared to promise anything that may capture votes. So the new thing is duty-free concessions on motor vehicles for public servants. Yet, he cannot assure them of job security when his own economic minister has accused them of low levels of productivity, a signal that the government could retrench workers in the public service. Let's not forget, Mr. Speaker, that there were other promises made for the south of the island. You may recall, let me copy the budget. You may recall, Mr. Speaker, they include Fairmont Hotel for Sabwisha in Choiseul, Ritz-Carlton for Black Bay in Beaufort, the Canals Project, and a cruise ship terminal, a hotel park, thank you, and major Il Pirata site in Beaufort. Mr. Speaker, these promises, these wild promises, have sadly, in part, encouraged a certain disdain for politicians among the people of St. Lucia. I want to tell St. Lucians that the Labour government will, out of respect for them, will be realistic in its promises. We will not promise what we cannot deliver. And the biggest promise of all, the elimination of VAT. The biggest promise of all, the elimination of VAT, has remained, to say the least, elusive. Mr. Speaker, sadly for our country, this government has little to show for its 4 years in office. It has been a wasted 4 years, characterized by vindictiveness, victimization, threats, false promises, name-calling by ministers, ministers misrepresenting themselves, pejorative letters, threatening. This has been a government that has failed to put its people first and has squandered and betrayed the trust that the people of St. Lucia placed in his hands on June the 6th, 2016. Mr. Speaker, the government will want you to believe that on June the 6th, when it came into power, St. Lucia, there was nothing in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. Allow me a few moments to recall what this government found when they came into power in 2016, Mr. Speaker. They found near completion 2 major hotel projects. Near completion 2 major hotel projects with the prospect of the creation of hundreds of jobs. Mr. Speaker, let us in contrast take a moment to briefly look at some of the achievements of the last St. Lucia Labour Party government between the years 2011 and 2016. In every area of economic and social activity, tangible progress are made. We improved the road infrastructure across the country with the building and repairing of 23 bridges and have commenced the construction of 2 more in Canaries and Tomaso. We undertook post-Thomas reconstruction improvement works by building retaining walls to avoid further landslides in 9 affected areas in the Bad Hill. We completed a flood risk assessment in the Bexon Mark area and was on the verge of starting the intervention. We rehabilitated a major landslide in Geno. We completed the rehabilitation of over 25 major roads across the country. And Mr. Speaker, we did all that without the increase of the gas tax by $1.50 per gallon. We made progress in many other aspects of road improvement. We've improved drainage and always maintained the philosophy of seeking to build with greater infrastructure resilience. And whenever possible, invited a combination of national and international competitive bidding for the procurement of most projects. We proudly created direct employment for 1,118 persons in the NICE project, from which 4,847 people benefited directly. In the process, we are creating a more caring society. In education, we refurbished under the BIP program. We refurbished under the BIP program schools in Saltibus, Denier Riviere, Dennery, and Deriso. We built new schools in Miku, two new two-story blocks in the Corinth Secondary School, two new classroom blocks at Foasso. We rehabilitated the Cannery School. We renovated the Viewfort Infant School, and we built 3 stories on the Glendon Mason School. Beyond the physical infrastructure of schools, Mr. Speaker, we provided $500 bursary for students entering secondary school for the first time, and $700 bursary for teachers to help purchase school supplies. And as a caring government, students who were victims of the Christmas Eve trough received a cash donation for the replacement of their school supplies damaged during the Christmas Eve trough, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the current education quality improvement project, EQUIP, now being implemented by the Ministry of Education, is the work of a St. Lucia Labour Party administration between 2011 and 2016. The project was accepted and was presented and accepted by the CDB in December 2015. The main focus of the program was to address the specific needs of special education in St. Lucia. This program was prepared after a tour of special needs education facilities in Barbados in October 2015 by the then Minister for Education, Robert K. Lewis, by the Pierre of Education, the Chief Education Officer, who has soon met his professional demise, and the Officer for Special Education, Dale Saint-Just, and the PS of Economic Planning. The program, Mr. Speaker, was to do, among other things, recommendations for St. Lucia, the relocation and reconstruction of the Donato School as a comprehensive corrective measures to address severe roof leakages, serious electrical and fire hazards, severe termite and water damage. Because of the state of that school, Mr. Speaker, EQUIP said that a new school should be built. That was from 2016. It's 2020, and this government is now offering that new school. From 16, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the EQUIP project also spoke to the reconstruction of the Special Education Center in Viewfort as a comprehensive measure to address the problems in that school, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the previous SLP government had already secured the land adjacent to the Dimpolet Rizzi Primary School for the construction of the new Donato School. And up to this day, Mr. Speaker, the school has not been built, and we are hearing about it now in the 2020 budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, mindful of the challenges some families were undergoing, we launched a new school feeding program to bring our students, a new school feeding program, Mr. Speaker. To bring our students into the new world of technology and learning, we introduced the one laptop per student program, which was foolishly abandoned, only to be hurriedly brought back during the COVID lockdown, when our children could not receive the normal classroom instruction. In all sectors, Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party performed well, with the emphasis always on putting people first. We understood the plight of single mothers. That is why we launched on Thursday, 9th August 2012, the Single Mother Empowerment Program with a budget allocation of $1.2 million. We also promoted and respected the rights of workers with the introduction of the Labor Code. We created community access for free Wi-Fi. It was made available to introduce our people to the virtual world, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party did that between 2011 and 2016. We assisted our farmers with a farm labor support program. We provided financial support for the differently able and made access to public places easier by improving our sidewalks for wheelchair access, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a party, we recognize the vital importance of an operationally independent police force. And this is why in the new Labour Party government, we will put structures in place to secure the independence of the police in day-to-day operational matters. In spite of some recent police activities against certain members of the public, we still believe that the majority of men and women in the service are hardworking, conscientious, and loyal to their pledge. We have always remained sympathetic to the working conditions of our policemen and women. Hence the reason why we built several new police stations and encourage them to continue educating themselves, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the police is not the property of the Prime Minister to be used for any selfish political agenda. The police belong to the nation, not the government. This is why we reject any personal claim to the police. The police are there to serve the public's safety and to ensure the safety of the people, and not to intimidate the public with misguided instructions during an unnecessary state of emergency. Mr. Speaker, we pledge our support to the police. We were the government who improved the conditions of work for the police in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, by building the new police stations. We were the ones who started that, Mr. Speaker. We started it. And it took them years to complete the fire station in Barbano and the Barbano police station, Mr. Speaker. Again, political. Mr. Speaker, we in a previous term, we built the Mental Wellness Center. We built the George Odlum Stadium. We built the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. We built the Bodley facility. We built the John Odlum Secondary School, the Grossley Secondary School, the Barbano Secondary School, the Dimpolet School, and we negotiated funds for the construction of the OKEU hospital, Mr. Speaker. These are facts that cannot. Mr. Speaker, we make no apologies for putting our people first, because without people being first, there can be no economy to grow. Pre and post-COVID, our people will always be first and will remain first. Mr. Speaker, the government has been caught with its pants down and completely unprepared for the challenges of a post-COVID era. To this day, we have not established adequate protocols for the reopening of our borders and continue to be under an unnecessary state of emergency, which is destroying the business of restaurants which rely on late evening traffic. And if this was not enough, punishment on hard-working St. Lucians, they are about to impose punitive taxes on the self-employed, like mechanics and charcoal makers, attempting to make a living in the most challenging times. Mr. Speaker, the COVID pandemic is serious and continues to impact on large and small economies negatively. Human lives have been lost daily in the thousands. As well, many livelihoods of those who have survived, Mr. Speaker. St. Lucia, like many other Caribbean countries, have been spared the worst of the health crisis, with no deaths and a relatively low level of infection. in that regard, we have been fortunate as a region. I want again to express my thanks and appreciation to all the health workers and first responders who are working diligently during these difficult times. Mr. Speaker, a St. Lucia Labour Party government would have ensured that the required resources are available, particularly personal protective equipment, especially as we begin the reopening of our borders to countries which have had higher levels of infection rates. Our frontline staff in this COVID battle need to be protected so that the rest of us can be looked after in the event, God forbid, of another outbreak. Mr. Speaker, this budget is unrealistic, unsustainable, and contains proposals that are only a comfort to a fool. The proposals in the budget are intended to accomplish all that was not done in 4 years. Mr. Speaker, the budget should have dealt with the realities of our position post-COVID. The budget should have been designed to ease the hardships on the single mothers, the unemployed, the small business owners, the vendors, the taxi drivers, and the minibus drivers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the International Monetary Fund made available to the government of St. Lucia $76 million for income support, health-related initiatives, and for the improvement of livelihoods, Mr. Speaker. What is in the budget that can realistically help or ease the sufferings of the majority of St. Lucians? An SAP government would have responded very differently from this government. An SAP government would have ensured that the people, the sufferings of the people of St. Lucia would have come first before any other project, Mr. Speaker. We would not have repurposed funds from the Climate Adaptation Fund, but instead take advantage of the IMF interest-free loan to provide $15 million worth of assistance to small and medium-sized enterprises. An SAP government would make available $5 million of assistance to vendors and other micro businesses to feed their families during this time of low economic activity. These vendors could be easily identified because they make payments to the city councils and to the village councils. An SAP government would understand the contribution made by healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, and first responders with a bonus of $1.2 million as an expression of gratitude to them for their services. An SAP government would support our creative industry and media workers who are unemployed because of the closure of hotels and other places of entertainment by giving them a grant of $3 million. An SAP government would prepare the country for the proposed reopening of the borders by obtaining temperature testing equipment and rapid COVID testing apparatus. We propose an initial amount of $5 million for that purpose. An SAP government would assist the small hotel and ancillary hotel sector with a grant of $10 million to assist their tour operators, dive and pleasure boat operators, Airbnb owners, to assist them to meet their business and other commitments during this time of no income. The minibus sector would be assisted with fuel vouchers valued at $3 million. Fishers would also be issued with fuel vouchers valued at $3 million. Food vouchers would be distributed to the most vulnerable, the disabled and needy on a non-partisan basis to a value of $3 million. To assist the unemployed and those who have lost their jobs due to COVID, we would work with Lucilec, Wasco, and Flow to cover an agreed percentage of the bills to a value of $5 million. An SAP government would expand the home care program to assist the elderly and shut-ins and create new employment by employing more home care assistants and also specialists to assist in the psychological pressures of COVID. We would spend $1 million on that, Mr. Speaker. To generate employment and income generation, an SAB government would invest $3 million in a non-partisan island-wide beautification program. To supplement the income of farmers who can no longer sell to the hotels, a grant of $3 million will be granted to these farmers. To generate rural employment, a farm labor support system should be introduced at a cost of $1.5 million. And for the support and creation of a youth economy, an immediate injection of $10 million, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the youth economy will provide skill training, finance and marketing for young people who have special interests in certain lines of economic activity, such as sports, music, entertainment, the creative industries, and the orange economy. The youth economy is not tokenism. It will focus on encouraging young people to become entrepreneurs by embracing the various avenues they think that they can convert into business enterprises. It will facilitate the growth of our music industry to help boost the growing attraction of our new musicians, like the Denry segment, Mr. Speaker, and the other musicians in St. Lucia, the other young musicians, like Umpa, Black Boy, Bobo, Freezy, Ezra, Mr. Speaker, Kayo, Lucity, Torel, Yogi, the Yogi who just recently produced an album, Mr. Speaker. There are several skillful young people, Mr. Speaker, that the youth economy would have boosted them and caused them to turn their skills and their talents into business and earn an income for themselves and their families. Mr. Speaker, it will facilitate the growth of our music industry, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government and all these proposals would come from the $76 million of the IMF fund, Mr. Speaker. That would generate activities. It would generate business activity. It would have a multiplier effect on the economy. But instead, this government took that money to move a rubbish dump from Beaufort to Mico so that they would be able to facilitate horses, Mr. Speaker. That is what that money was used for, instead of being used to improve the quality of life of the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, when there is any budget presentation, the people of our constituencies always ask us, what is in the budget for them, Mr. Speaker? They say, what is in the budget for them, Mr. Speaker? And in this budget, the government proclaims that they will spend the government proclaims, Mr. Speaker, that they will spend 1.6 or $1.9 million, Mr. Speaker. That is what the government proclaims that they will spend in this budget. But, Mr. Speaker, the people of my constituency are asking me, what is in the budget for them? That's what they're asking, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they are saying to me that the George Charles facility, which when the George Charles Comfort Station, which when we left in 2016 was up and functioning, Mr. Speaker, they are saying to me that this is closed and they cannot use it. And instead, Mr. Speaker, politics is being played to keep it closed so that the parliamentary rep would suffer. Mr. Speaker, they are saying to me, Mr. Speaker, what is happening to the children's park, where there was Wi-Fi, and where the children could come and play and enjoy themselves? It is closed because the government has refused to spend a few $1,000s to repair the swings, etc., that are needed for the park to be functional, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they are saying to me, why is the Marshall grounds in such a condition? When we left government, Mr. Speaker, we had spent $1 million in the Marshall grounds. The Marshall grounds had lights before the Sabina Park in Jamaica. The Marshall grounds were well lit the grounds were redone. It had reached international standard. The Marshall grounds, in the Marshall grounds, they were changing facilities. This government allowed it to get a situation where they refuse not even to cut the grass on the Marshall grounds, Mr. Speaker. And then you tell me about sports infrastructure. And the Marshall grounds, that was there. The work had already been done. You allow it to deteriorate, Mr. Speaker, because you want the parliamentary rep to suffer. They are saying to me, Mr. Speaker, that the entry court, where you just need 2 boards on the basketball court, and you just need to repair the benches and to mark the court. That's not done because you want, and you tell me about you spend millions of dollars in sports infrastructure. The young people of Bocage are telling me that the Bocage court that was in 2016 there were lights, there were seating arrangements. They allow it to get in a state of disrepair because they want the parliamentary rep to suffer, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government allows the constituency of members opposite to get in a state where hopefully the people will complain and say that the parliamentary rep is doing nothing, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the people of St. Lucia are smarter. The people of St. Lucia know better, Mr. Speaker, and that will not happen because every year, for the seats that they target, the people return representatives of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Mr. Speaker, I heard the Prime Minister speak about Proud and the Rockall lands. Mr. Speaker, the Rockall lands, the survey started in the Rockall lands from 2015. From 2015. Mr. Speaker, surveys began in the Rockall lands. We removed the school, the Rockall school. Surveys began, Mr. Speaker. This government has deliberately allowed that these surveys, they stopped the surveys. And now election is coming and you talk about Rockall land and surveys, Mr. Speaker. In Bagatelle, Mr. Speaker, surveys again began to give the people ownership of the land. This government again deliberately stopped it, Mr. Speaker. And they speak about Proud and lands, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government deliberately victimizes opposition constituencies, Mr. Speaker, deliberately. And then you speak about a country for all, and we are all in. All in what, Mr. Speaker? The government is not all in. And the government, Mr. Speaker, with the CDB program, the CDB projects, Mr. Speaker, I understand that hundreds of CDB projects are to commence in St. Lucia. Hundreds. And none of these parliamentary representatives, none of them, have been called for one moment to say, do you want X or Y CDB projects, Mr. Speaker? But you can keep your CDB projects, you can keep them, you can try to cause the people of our constituencies to suffer. That will just strengthen them to vote more for us when the election time comes. You can keep them, Mr. Speaker. You can keep it. This victimization, Mr. Speaker, must stop. This victimization must stop, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and they parade, and people that got defeated in the elections, that continue to get defeated in the elections, up to Sunday, they had bags of food brewing for people in Rockall, Mr. Speaker. The last food they gave them caused the people to have running tummies. Manger, c'est Jean Flambeau. C'est bail, c'est moun la Rockall pour manger. Il bail au mal boudin. Mr. Speaker, that is what passes for government in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, so these constituencies, Mr. Speaker, continue to suffer. They continue to suffer, Mr. Speaker. The people in these constituencies continue to suffer. And the latest phrase, when they send the mind binders around is, what Pierre do for Marchand? That's the latest, Mr. Speaker. That's the latest. But the people of Marchand, they know what Pierre has done. That's why they re-elect Pierre. And that's why they're going to re-elect each and one of us here, because they know what you have done, Mr. Speaker. So when you send your mind benders into the area to say, what Pierre do already, that won't work. It has never worked. It cannot work, Mr. Speaker. So I invite you to continue doing that, because the more you do it, is the more the people are strong. The stronger they get, and the more committed they are to ensuring that you never win that seat. Never. Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia, it is said that St. Lucia is a tourism mecca. And we boast about tourism. Tourism, the Prime Minister made endless pronouncements about tourism, Mr. Speaker. He said that tourism was doing very well, and in the past, tourism was doing very well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, but the Prime Minister has not told us how he intends to reopen St. Lucia post-COVID. He has not said to us how he intends to reopen St. Lucia post-COVID, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says that COVID has caused the tourism industry to go into a state of regression. And I agree, it's happening all over the world, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, there have been no concrete proposals or information as to how he will reopen the country so that tourism can restart. We are not surprised that the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association recently complained of a lack of consultation and the government's continuous bundling of and changing of protocols that will reopen St. Lucia. Instead of the government looking at reopening St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, you hear in that budget address, the Prime Minister is speaking about increased revenue, increased airlift capacity, increasing hotel stock, increasing the sector's contribution, but he hasn't figured out how tourism comes to St. Lucia. Last week, only yesterday, a letter was written by the Minister of Transport saying to the hoteliers that they have changed the protocols and the tests will no longer be done by the airlines. Only last week. But you're talking about tourism increasing. How can you have tourism increasing when, by your own admission, you said that tourism will not return to pre-COVID levels until the year 2023? But you talk about new hotels and increased revenue. Mr. Speaker, flashing mirrors. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated in some circles that until the year 2023, and that's not the blame, you can't blame you for that, although you like to take credit for everything. I'm not going to blame you for that. What I'm going to blame you for is your unrealistic proposals, the unrealistic things you say to the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're going to blame you for, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and the government knows that cruise lines will not return to St. Lucia for a year. Cruise lines, cruise tourism will not return to St. Lucia, but still for that, you make revenue proposals and you talk about return from tourism and increased tourism returns. How is that possible? Where will the tourists come from? Why are you fooling the people of St. Lucia? Mr. Speaker, Iwanora International Airport. The St. Lucia's Labour Party's position on the Iwanora International Airport development has been vindicated, albeit unfortunately by the COVID pandemic. Mr. Speaker, let me make it abundantly clear. There are some members, particularly one, who would want people to believe that this Labour Party wants St. Lucia to fail. Mr. Speaker, why would we want St. Lucia to fail? Tell me, why would the Labour Party want St. Lucia to fail? What, we are born in St. Lucia, all of us have one passport, all of us live here, our families live here, we have to live here. Why would we want St. Lucia to fail? But Mr. Speaker, we cannot sit back idly and allow this government to just say things, just take people's money and borrow money for guys who have consultancies for renderings and say nothing. Sit back and say nothing. Sit back and make false promises. Sit back and say things you know will not happen just because you want to win an election. That will not happen, Mr. Speaker. I want to inform the public of St. Lucia that we do not want St. Lucia to fail. So that you will know in international airport. We said to the government, based on what's happening, you're going on the wrong track. Based on what's happening in the whole world, you're going on the wrong track. they did some fancy maths. They multiply visitors by the airport departure tax, and they say you'll get billions of dollars, billions of dollars, billions. And look at what the Labour Party wants St. Lucia to lose. They never said Barbados is going the same way. Jamaica was going the same way. In fact, Mr. Speaker, only last week there was a $1 billion expansion for the airport in England, and they cancelled it because of COVID, Mr. Speaker. But you've done the maths, and you say that's the money. Very simple, straight line. I mean, and you know, Mr. Speaker, for people to tell people that and to want them to believe that, and even some of them themselves believe it, Mr. Speaker, based on who say it, is really sad. For you to believe it's so simple. Just put a tax, multiply by visitors, and everything's all over. Everything's over. Now, where are you getting the people to come to the airport? How are you repaying the people? How are you going to get people to come to the airport, Mr. Speaker? Because you have that burden, Mr. Speaker. You have that burden. What would happen is that the private sector would have taken that over, and the government still argues, Mr. Speaker. They still argue as if they are the only ones who have sense. And they are the only ones who know best. Whereas the whole world is going one way. They sit here and they argue. They argue and they use their mind benders to make people believe that what they are doing is right, Mr. Speaker. But now everybody can see. So the 4 years have come, so they run and they put some plywood around a place and say they build an airport. They rush, they put some plywood around a piece of land and say they build an airport. The same fellas, the same plywood, the same people that had a sword turning ceremony a few years ago and said they build an airport. Now, last week, plywood, and listen. They say that when they put the plywood there, Mr. Speaker, if that wasn't so serious, it would be a laughing matter, you know. But that is $600 million of debt. That is $600 million, Mr. Speaker. And that debt is not going to be paid by us, you know. Not by us. It's not by us. It's going to be paid by our children and our grandchildren. That's what God, Mr. Speaker. But they sit, Mr. Speaker, and they laugh. They laugh as if we don't know what we are saying, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our position on the Hiwanora International Airport was right. Our position, we maintain our position, and we say that this is a bad decision, and the COVID crisis has proven that it was a bad decision, and our position was right, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the government healthcare, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, apart from wasting time and resources on St. Jude Hospital, Mr. Speaker, which government destroys 2 buildings that have already been constructed? Mr. Speaker, let's be serious, Mr. Speaker. There are 2 buildings already constructed, costing millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. You put a tractor in them, you destroy it. At St. Jude, how much did 2 buildings cost? 500. Mr. Speaker, you destroy it. You put a tractor in, Mr. Speaker. You put a tractor in, and then without tender, you say you build another building that you do not have any plan approval for. You want to pretend that you will complete it before election, because by your own admission, St. Jude will be an election ploy. So you rush in to build a new structure. And whilst you doing that, Mr. Speaker, you leave scores of buildings that have been constructed that your own audit said that these buildings could be repurposed for hospital purposes. You leave them to rot, Mr. Speaker, and you spend $26 million to build a new building. And you have no tendering, don't know who the contractors are. Your whole supervision is a mess, Mr. Speaker, just because you want to get some election value, Mr. Speaker. And you say you want the people of St. Lucia to believe that because a general election is coming, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the OKE hospital This government told us that we could not fund the OKU hospital. They told you that St. Lucians were not capable. They told you had to look for people from all over the world to manage the hospital. They told you that this Minister of Finance left no money for the hospital, Mr. Speaker. And they said to you that things were bad in the hospital. They said the hospital could not open because they were missing a breaker. They said all kind of things, Mr. Speaker. All suddenly, in 3 weeks' time, the hospital can open. Mr. Speaker, that is crying to heaven for vengeance. In a hospital you could not open the OKU hospital because you said a lot of things were wrong. You happened to open it in 3 weeks with the same people that you said could not open it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that cannot be right, Mr. Speaker. That can't be right. It cannot be right. You can't allow people to suffer for politics. You can't allow people to suffer because you believe if you front load them with projects in an election year, you will win the election. That shouldn't happen, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we heard about health insurance. Health insurance. We were promised health insurance. That this year, a minister said, everybody will have a card, and the card will have $100,000 on it, and you can get free health for $100,000. That's what they said. That is what they said. That's what they said. They said, a minister of government, in your government, he said that they would have a card, and the card would have $100,000. You're just going to get treatment for $100,000. That's what he said. They said so, Mr. Speaker, they said so from 2018, they said so, Mr. Speaker, up to today. Listen to what the Prime Minister says in the budget. They are going to explore a fixed charge fee structure which will be shared between employee and employer. That's what he said today for health insurance. Years ago, it was health insurance supposed to happen immediately, and everybody would have a card. That's what he said. Not you said so. Not you. You didn't say it. That if you don't know, mind your business. Everybody would have a card, Mr. Speaker, and the card would give them 100,000, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, today, it's a fixed charge for structure which should be shared between employee and employer. We ask the question, what is the fixed charge? What will the employer pay and what will the employee pay? What is it, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, an SAP government will ensure that particularly during these times, universal health care would be a priority for the government and for the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And it would ensure that there's affordable health care for the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. This fixed charge, Mr. Speaker, is not realistic, and it's something we need more information on the health insurance that this government has been promising for years, Mr. Speaker, while people continue to suffer because they can't afford health services in St. Lucia and they can't afford the treatment that they deserve, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister in his budget speaks about the fiscal position, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I really feel sorry for the economists who have to make a case for that. I feel sorry for them, Mr. Speaker. Because in their own heart and their own soul, they know that what's there is unrealistic, it doesn't make any sense, and it can't happen. They know that. Any student of economics will tell you that how can you speak about a fiscal position and about revenue when your main earner of revenue, you don't know what's happening to it. Your main earner, tourism industry, you have no idea what's happening here, but you write in print in a budget revenue projections for 1 year when you have no idea what will happen to your main earner, Mr. Speaker. You have no idea. And in the same breath, you say you have a financing gap of $560 million. But you say in that document that your fiscal strategy requires that you continue to grow our economy. But you still have not figured how to reopen the economy. And at the same time, you speak about a reduction in revenue. Look at the mixed match. Look at the mixed match. Growth of the economy, reduction in revenue, tourism industry has not started. Your main industry owner You have no idea what's happening to it. Your main trading partner, the U.S., people are saying, the Europeans are saying that they will not allow U.S. visitors to come to St. Lucia. But you tell people that you're going to have new hotels that come to Europe. But you have new hotels. You're talking about new hotels, Mr. Speaker. You talk about, Mr. Speaker, this is really something. I pity the people who have to deal with that, Mr. Speaker. Because in their conscience, they know that's not possible. And, Mr. Speaker, you talk about debt. On the one breath, at some point you say you have $700 million of bonds that you have, that because of the world situation, these bonds you may have to pay these bonds. But in the same breath, to fund your financing gap, you're talking about buying $267 million worth of bonds. Mr. Speaker, you understand what's happening there? One breath, that you have so much that may not roll over. That's what the Minister of Finance says. The $700 million worth of bonds may not roll over. That's what he said. But in the next breath, you say you're going to get $267 million worth of bonds. Mr. Speaker, what is... But, Mr. Speaker, then you talk about debt. And you say, oh, you've reduced the debt to GDP ratio to the levels that you wanted to reach. And you boast, Mr. Speaker. But you never tell the public of St. Lucia that you have not really reduced the volume of debt. What you've done is a mathematical calculation called rebasing, where you have opened up, because you've opened up the base of your debt, so you have a larger base because of rebasing, because you've added things to your GDP that you didn't have before, and the debt percentage remains the same, but since you have a wider base, the percentage has decreased, Mr. Speaker. That is what you have done. And you boast about a reduction in debt. But you're not telling the people of St. Lucia that the volume of debt has remained the same, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, why can't the government speak the truth to the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker? Why can't the government speak the truth? Why can't the government say that whereas the percentages have reduced, but the country is still indebted by the $3 billion indebted by, and now you want to add another $500 million worth of debt to a country where its main owner, its main revenue owner, you have no idea what will happen to it. But you're going to add $500 million worth of debt, Mr. Speaker, or you say you're going to add it. And in the same breath you said that you may have bonds that you cannot roll over. Mr. Speaker, that's bluff, and it's intended to placate the people of St. Lucia in an election period, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance speaks about reduced revenue flows. Revenue is decreasing. Tax revenue is decreasing, Mr. Speaker. And we understand? You understand? Because that's a worldwide situation. But if it's a worldwide situation, why are you trying to placate and fool the people of St. Lucia with expectations that you know are unrealistic? What the government should have done, the government should have taken the people of St. Lucia in their confidence and used the funds, particularly the $76 million from the IMF, to sustain livelihoods and to stop the sufferings of the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, because people are suffering. This government will not be suffering, but people are suffering, Mr. Speaker. You have to go in the constituencies and hear how people are suffering. People are hungry. People are stressed. People are depressed. People are wondering what will happen to them, Mr. Speaker. People are wondering what will happen to them, Mr. Speaker. And we stay arrogantly and we take it for a joke. Instead of saying, let us find a common solution, we stay arrogantly in our Tower of Babel and cast aspersions, Mr. Speaker. When the people out there are suffering, you know they are suffering. I hear them every day. They are hungry. They are depressed, Mr. Speaker, because they have no idea what the future will bring for them, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the government's newest election ploy is duty-free concessions for civil servants. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister speaks of duty-free concessions for essential workers. And I'm the first to raise my hand and say essential workers are deserving. They work very hard, Mr. Speaker. But the question is, would these duty-free concessions be for all public servants? That's the question. Would it be for teachers? Would it be for daily paid workers? Anybody who has worked for 5 years? What's it, Mr. Speaker? But Mr. Speaker, it's the same government, months before, when they were in negotiations with public servants, told them they could not give them duty-free concessions. The same government, in the negotiations with public servants, said they could not give them duty-free concessions because things were bad. And that was pre-COVID. Now, post-COVID, when your income, by your own admission, your income is decreasing, your revenue is decreasing, and you use the famous word of cash flow. Your cash flow is bad because your revenue is less than your expenses. Now you say you're going to give them duty-free concessions, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy if civil servants get duty-free concessions. But I know, Mr. Speaker, that is something that only time will tell. Mr. Speaker, it is passing strange, Mr. Speaker, that same government that spoke about 50% cut in civil servant salary and exchange it for bonds, that's the same government that now has found money. They found money to pay civil servants. They found money, Mr. Speaker, and now they want, and they're finding more money, Mr. Speaker, because elections are coming. I stood here and I told them that 4 years is not 40 years. They laughed at me. They were pompous and arrogant. They raised their chests. Now, the 5th year is here, Mr. Speaker, and panic. There is panic in the ranks, Mr. Speaker, because the 5th year is here. So all kind of promises, Mr. Speaker, because there is panic in the air, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the government also spoke about duty-free concessions for taxi drivers. Mr. Speaker, duty-free concessions for taxi drivers is a creature of the St. Lucia Labour Party. We were the ones who started duty-free concessions for taxi drivers, and they stopped it when they got into power. We were the ones starting this. We were the ones. But now, you give taxi drivers duty-free concessions, Mr. Speaker. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, you have no guests coming into the hotels. And at the same time, you're giving hotels duty-free concessions to carry their own tourists from the airport to the hotels. So what are you doing? You're giving taxi drivers duty-free concessions on one hand, you're giving hotels duty-free concessions on the other hand, you're allowing hotels to carry their own guests, and at the same time, you have no tourists. You have no tourists, Mr. Speaker. So what again, Mr. Speaker? Bluff. Election bluff. Bluff and fluff. Because they know very well that no taxi driver will take a loan if they're not sure how they'll get tourists to put in that car. They know it very well. But bluff. So you say that, or probably the government has a plan for some of its rich friends to buy more cars, to carry more tourists to bring to the hotels. You never know. You never know who has some company and who can afford to buy cars duty-free. You never know. Because I can't understand. You never know which minister has friends or who can afford to buy cars to put duty-free so they can make business with it, Mr. Speaker. You never know. Mr. Speaker, I say to the government, Mr. Speaker, that duty-free concession to taxi drivers will not help unless you have tourists coming to the country. And talking about duty-free, Mr. Speaker, what about the small craft operators and the boat operators who are complaining that they have been left out of the tourism industry? Well, what about them, Mr. Speaker? They are complaining, Mr. Speaker. But again, we always find reasons to blame the people, to share the blame, to find some mama guy to say about people, except we're not accepting the blame ourselves, Mr. Speaker. The government always finds a reason. You did it too. You were there when it happened. Why you didn't change it? Apart from saying that they are at fault, Mr. Speaker. They are at fault, Mr. Speaker. So, duty-free concessions for taxi drivers, duty-free concessions for minibus drivers, duty-free concessions for everybody, but your tourism industry, you're not sure how you reopen it. That is where we are. I mean, that's where we are, Mr. Speaker. Unemployment. Mr. Speaker, the government boasts that they have reduced unemployment. They boast. They boast, Mr. Speaker, that they have reduced unemployment. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what happened in St. Lucia today. The people who you reduce unemployment for are now unemployed. The people that you say you reduce unemployment for a few years ago are unemployed now. They are the same people that have lost their jobs in the hotels. So what is the value of reduced unemployment to them? That is so when you boast about reduced unemployment, it does not care. People, the workers at Coconut Bay, the workers at Coconut Bay who have lost their jobs do not care whether you had reduced unemployment last year. The workers at Coconut Bay and the hotel workers who have lost their jobs, who cannot feed their families, who are stressed because they can't pay their mortgages, who have been made redundant by the hotels, do not care whether you reduced employment last year. The reality of their situation is they are unemployed now. That is the situation. They are unemployed now. So no matter how you reduced it last year or year before, Mr. Speaker, the fact is they are unemployed now and they are suffering. So your boast about reducing unemployment does not ring a bell to them because they do not care. Mr. Speaker, the civil servants, Mr. Speaker, so your reduced unemployment is just your way of making yourself feel good. But the reality, and you know the reality, and no matter how you run and jump and shout, Mr. Speaker, the reality is there are 13,000 hotel workers who are unemployed. 13,000 hotel workers, not your fault, but they are unemployed. So don't tell them about you reduce unemployment. That was a year ago. Talk about the reality now. Talk about what's happening to their livelihoods. Talk about the fact that they can't pay their mortgages. Talk about the fact that they cannot pay their bills. They've been disconnected by the utility companies. They cannot live, Mr. Speaker, not because it's not your fault altogether. It's the fact, the reality. So don't come and fool them and say you reduce unemployment. That doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Reducing unemployment last year is irrelevant now. It's irrelevant now, Mr. Speaker, because there are 400 people who lost their job at Coconut Bay. Go and tell them that you reduced unemployment last year. Go and tell them that. Go and tell them that. Go and tell, Mr. Speaker, these civil servants, Mr. Speaker, these civil servants, a partner, a couple, where one is a civil servant and one person is a hotel worker, and you've lost that entire income, Mr. Speaker. Have some pity for them. Understand their plight. Not because you are a minister and you're big now, that you can laugh at people. These people are suffering. They are suffering. They are suffering, Mr. Speaker, because they do not have an income. And they do not know when their income is coming. So don't tell you that don't tell me you reduce unemployment. Mr. Speaker, you must have some pity. The government should have some pity for these people and don't laugh at them and make it a joke. What I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that the people who have lost their jobs, the 13,000 hotel workers who have lost their jobs, Mr. Speaker, these are the people that I'm speaking about. And you can jump high, you can jump low. When they go home tonight, they do not have a job, they don't have an income, and they are suffering. That is the reality of the situation, Mr. Speaker. And no matter what you say, that's the situation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these St. Lucians, they follow international news. So you can stay here and intimidate journalists. You can make police arrest talk show hosts. You can do whatever you want. You can put a camera outside my office to see who's coming there. You can do whatever you want, Mr. Speaker. You can do whatever you want, Mr. Speaker. But the fact is, St. Lucians listen to international news. You cannot stop CNN. You can't stop the Facebook. They know what's happening, Mr. Speaker. And they know that the COVID pandemic is surging in the United States. They know that, Mr. Speaker. And they know that our tourism industry is fragile and under threat. So when you talk about unemployment, Mr. Speaker, these people know. They know the reality of their life. They know what's happening to them. They can feel it, Mr. Speaker. I speak to them every day. They are stressed. They wonder, working out everyone, they say, what will happen to us next year? The people, I'm sure the member of Viva Staff will tell you about the 400 constituents that are not working, Mr. Speaker. And they tell you, Mr. Speaker, have some pity for them. Don't come and boast and laugh and say, you did that. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, so these employment figures mean nothing to these people because they have to feed their family, they have to feed themselves, and they cannot feed them now because they are unemployed. That is the reality of the situation in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. So you can jump high, you can jump low. That is the situation in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, talking about unemployment, I just want to very briefly say something, Mr. Speaker, that the unemployment figures say, Mr. Speaker. From 2016 to 2019, St. Lucia's labor force declined. From 2016 to 2019, St. Lucia's labor force declined by 3,649 people, or 3.5%, from 104,625 to 100,976, thereby assisting with the reduction of the unemployment rate. This had nothing to do with government policy, Mr. Speaker. Nothing. You know why? Because the people in the labor force, it decreased by 3.5%. So when you boast of a reduction in unemployment, you must look at the base, Mr. Speaker. You must look at the base. The fact is, St. Lucia's workforce decreased in the 3 years. And it's very simple. You can know that. The hundreds of St. Lucians who went to Dominica to work, who went to St. Martin to work, who went abroad to work. So there were less people in St. Lucia looking for jobs. That's the reality. Mr. Speaker, that is the reality of the situation. And you can jump high, you can jump low. That is the reality, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, because you do not feel it. He who feels it most knows it, Mr. Speaker. And the people of St. Lucia are feeling it, Mr. Speaker. They are feeling it. They understand the reality. They understand it. They understand it. So even though you come and you read all kinds of things, and you try to victimize and pappy show and create the environment where you want to do all kinds of things to people, the people feel it. They understand it. And no matter what you say here, they understand it. Because when they go home tonight, a lot of them are not sure what's happening to them tomorrow. They're not sure. And that's the reality. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality of St. Lucia today. And if you go in the streets and you ask them, they will tell you that they are worried about their future. That's what they'll tell you. And that's a fact. The hotel workers are worried about the future. They have a right to worry about the future. So don't come and boast about unemployment figures and these kind of things. Think about the reality of the situation in St. Lucia today. That's what they are talking about. The situation, and anybody, labor, UWP, will tell you that they are afraid, they are concerned, because they are worried about the future. They are worried about the future, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's budget totally ignores everyday reality in St. Lucia. People are truly hurting in this country, Mr. Speaker. People are hurting. People are in pain. People are worried. People are depressed, Mr. Speaker. Everyone, in some means, either themselves or their relatives or their family, are concerned about their future because of the COVID situation. The Prime Minister did not cause COVID, but he and his government have the responsibility to alleviate the sufferings of the people, Mr. Speaker. It is their obligation, and nothing else should take precedence. The government's main objective is not concrete and steel. Their main objective should be seen about the needs of the people of St. Lucia, the sufferings of the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. The budget has two faces, flashing mirrors. Promises of manna from heaven, while the other side, it laments how terrible the global economy is because of COVID. It's a two-faced budget with a split tongue, reminiscent of the snake in the Garden of Eden. It seeks to tempt with unrealistic offerings, which, if accepted, would lead to the eventual death of our nation as we knew it many years ago. Mr. Speaker, the party that I lead chooses to select reality over fakery, truth over lies, honesty over corruption, and transparency over trickery. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party, the George Charles's party, was born out of the bosom of struggles of the workers of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, our party, the Labour Party, was born out of the bosom of struggles of the workers for better working conditions, Mr. Speaker. Our party has empathy for the people of St. Lucia. It feels the pain and the sufferings of St. Lucians, particularly in this COVID-19 environment. Hence the reason why my relief proposals for a wide cross-section of the country. These are realistic proposals that have been costed and funded. The proposals outlined will have the added benefit of immediately stimulating economic activity and enable many businesses to carry on. Mr. Speaker, we are living in difficult times. We cannot pretend that COVID-19 will disappear, even if we have done relatively well in containing the level of infection. We depend on other countries which are still in a battle with the containment of the virus. We must therefore be realistic in our projects. And so, very sadly, the budget of 2021 is fairy tales. These are fairy tales that have found their way into a government document. Fairy tales. A serious government would have crafted a budget based on a realistic assessment of the times we face locally and globally. This budget fails miserably in not recognizing the context in which we and the rest of the world are currently having to face. Mr. Speaker, the majority of people in St. Lucia find themselves in an uncertain environment that is contributing to much anxiety. Even if the government continues to restrain journalists by persisting in a state of emergency, they cannot interfere with the information available in the international world. This government continues to use taxpayers' money to fund government surrogates who constantly attack people personally on the television, paid using government funds, Mr. Speaker. Government funds pay their salary, Mr. Speaker, and their job is not to disseminate government information, but to consistently and persistently attack opposition figures, Mr. Speaker. The government can do whatever they want. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, that people know the reality. People know what they feel. People understand what they feel because they are the ones feeling it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this budget should be primarily concerned with how our country intends to survive the post-COVID times, Mr. Speaker. This budget should allow for the creation of an environment for the acceptance and observance of true democracy and the right to peaceful dissent, not one where journalists are detained, people are threatened with arrest, and barricades are set up to prevent people from listening to the representatives in the House of Assembly. This budget should encourage healing. This budget should encourage healing of the nation, not name-calling, division, and trickery with a sole purpose of trying to win an election. This budget should be a document that encourages real transformation of the St. Lucian economy, where local business people and contractors are empowered, knowing that there is a level playing field and the chance of securing work is not determined by their friendship or relationship with a government minister. This government should show empathy and understanding. The anxiety of couples over their bills and commitments should be alleviated by a caring government. This government should understand the plight of persons with disabilities and the other poor citizens who have not received their small stipends for the last 2 months. This budget should engender an environment of healing where the national trust would be respected and agreements honored. This budget should engender trust and confidence that will cause the people of St. Lucia to believe that its contents are realistic and achievable, not election gimmicks intended to catch off guard unsuspecting voters. The budget policies should embrace the realities on the challenges of healthcare during this COVID-19 pandemic and ensure affordable quality healthcare for all. The budget policies should make provision for the new digital economy and the realities of the new education system, meaning access to laptops and Wi-Fi as a starting point. This budget should present a realistic crime-fighting strategy that makes provision for adequate social interventions aimed at crime prevention under the guidance of an independent police force free from political manipulation. Mr. Speaker, the budget should contain truthful and realistic proposals that the people of St. Lucia can identify, and not proposals prepared by foreign mind-benders. Not proposals prepared by foreign mind-benders and surrogates whose sole intention is to hoodwink the people of St. Lucia to enable the United Workers' Party to win the next general election. The policy being by whatever means necessary. Mr. Speaker, this budget should not be about figures. This budget should be about life. Should be about reality. That's what this budget is all about. Because in spite of whatever the figures show, Mr. Speaker, this budget and the people of St. Lucia will tell you that they are not interested in the figures. The banana farmers who have not got paid for their crops are not interested in the figures of agricultural production. They are interested in the fact that they have not got paid for their produce, not in figures, Mr. Speaker. The farmers who used to sell to the hotels and cannot sell now, they're not interested in what you're doing in agriculture. They are interested in the fact that they have no money in their pocket, not because of your fault, but because they cannot sell their crops, Mr. Speaker. The hotel worker who is unemployed is not interested in tourism figures and tell you you have increased tourism by 10% or 5% or 6%. That's not his business. What he's interested in, Mr. Speaker, is the fact that he's unemployed because the hotel is closed. That is what he's interested in, Mr. Speaker. So all the show of figures and all the show of percentages, they bear no reality with what's happening in St. Lucia today. They bear no reality, Mr. Speaker. That is why the people of St. Lucia are not interested with your figures. Not interested in that. And you can show whatever figures you want. When people go home tonight, they know that they may not have a proper meal. Or they may be afraid that Lucilec may disconnect them tomorrow. That's what they know. They don't know about figures, Mr. Speaker. This is not a time for figures. This is a time for reality. This is a time for people, Mr. Speaker. This is a time to improve the welfare of the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. This is what this budget is supposed to be about. And this budget fails. This budget doesn't do that because this budget is a budget of dreams. It's a budget of unrealistic proposals. It's a budget that tells you one thing. It's a budget that says one thing on one hand and says another thing on the other hand. That's what the budget is about. This budget, Mr. Speaker, is not a budget that will give any hope to the unemployed mother. This budget will give no hope to the housekeeper working at the hotel that is closed and not sure when it will open. This budget will give no hope to the small business owner who employed one person in their shop, but now they can't employ the person any longer because the business is closing. This budget is giving no hope to the small businesses who are closing every day. They are closing every day, Mr. Speaker, because of the economic situation in the country. This budget doesn't give any hope to them. This budget doesn't give any hope to the minibus driver who, because of social distancing, cannot carry the amount of people he ought to carry, or who can't carry school children because schools are closed. This budget gives no hope for them. This budget gives no hope to the taxi driver who has no tourists to carry in his vehicle. This budget gives no hope to them, Mr. Speaker. So you can speak about whatever figures you want. Whatever figures you want, Mr. Speaker. This budget gives no hope to them. This budget gives no hope to the couple that one of them have lost their jobs and their brother or sister has lost their job also. And they have to try to support both families on one salary. This budget gives no hope for them, Mr. Speaker. That is the reality of St. Lucia today. Mr. Speaker, detractors and dreamers may say, what are the Labour Party plans? What will you do? The answer is simple, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party will be truthful, it will be honest, and it will take the people of St. Lucia in its confidence. The St. Lucia Labour Party would present realistic proposals in keeping with the real state of the country. Realistic proposals in keeping with the real state of the country and seek to improve the quality of life of the people. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party policies are not the work of mind-benders. The Labour Party policies are not the work of dreamers or academic proposals, but policies intended to touch the lives of all the people of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, the policies of the Labour Party are policies that focus on people. Mr. Speaker, I have briefly outlined how our party would utilize the $76 million to immediately improve livelihoods and generate economic activity, Mr. Speaker. I will now outline, Mr. Speaker, some of the broad outlines of our aims and objectives. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party would have a realistic alternative perspective to present government's dreams and not mega projects and elusive growth figures. Realistic proposals that do not present government dreams for mega projects, but realistic proposals that will help people. Labour Party policies will reflect values which are not alien to the character of the people of St. Lucia, but rather embrace traditions, their culture, their patrimony, and their customs. Labour Party policies would reflect a national vision for development and the transformation of the economy for the people of St. Lucia. The Labour Party policies would embrace a creative set of private-public sector partnerships, the avoidance of excessive borrowing, an imaginative and relative growth program. Labour Party policies would emphasize on poverty reduction, wealth creation, employment generation, and the growth and expansion through an enabling environment for the growth and expansion of micro, small, and medium-sized businesses, Mr. Speaker. A Labour Party policy would ensure that foreign investment is foreign investment. Foreign investment will not use the NIC funds of St. Lucians. Foreign investors would bring in their money to invest in St. Lucia and not have to use the pension savings of politicians. It will also ensure that foreign investors are facilitated and foreign investors do not have to sacrifice themselves or do not have to be a friend to a politician or friend of a politician so that they can be facilitated. It would have a transparent set of policies that all foreign investments would be available to all foreign investments. So no foreign investor would have to get the blessing of a politician, the blessing of a politician, Mr. Speaker, to become invested, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party policy would ensure that foreign investors and local investors have the same incentives available to both local and foreign investors, Mr. Speaker. So we welcome foreign investment, but we want real foreign investment, and then the party will facilitate real foreign investment, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party would ensure that there is integrated rural development, an integrated rural development program aimed at building strong rural communities, rural enterprises, and taking modern services to rural areas. The Labour Party will ensure a new government-private sector collaboration based on transparency, equity, accountability, and trust, involving the reform of the existing system, simplification of business processes, and availability of support services through agencies that are not political but flexible, Mr. Speaker. The interference of politicians will stop. The incentives available will be flexible and transparent. No, never again would political incentives depend on cabinet politicians deciding, give down this one and don't give that one. That is what the Labour Party policy would ensure, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party's policies would ensure a reform of the education system so as to correct the mismatch between the availability of skills and the demand for skills. The Labour Party policy would ensure, Mr. Speaker, that there is that reform of the education system, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Labour will endeavor, Mr. Speaker, to return St. Lucia to a position as the best place in the Caribbean to do business. That is what we'll try to bring back to St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a Labour Party policy would ensure the creation of a new non-traditional economic activity sector. This sector will be the alternative energy sector. St. Lucia has not yet scratched the surface where this is concerned. The St. Lucia Labour Party will create a strong, creative, and enabling environment that will encourage the development of the green economy, reduce dependence on fossil fuels, optimize the use of alternative energy, stimulate investment, grow new jobs, and improve the balance of payments. Mr. Speaker, the St. Lucia Labour Party would ensure a good governance framework, a framework that is against corruption, a framework that will ensure that corruption is eliminated from the governance system with clearly defined and enforceable fiscal rules. A Labour Party will ensure clear rules for tendering and operation of businesses. In effect, a new governance initiative that will include constitutional reform, Mr. Speaker. That is what the Labour Party will ensure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Labour Party will ensure the design of a new youth economy to embrace the special interests of young people with special interests in certain areas of economic activity, such as sports, entertainment, the creative economy, by providing skills, training, finance, and marketing, with a view to the creation of a culture of youth entrepreneurship and youth business development. Mr. Speaker, the National Labour Party will ensure the building of a new economy based in technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship, with a strong agricultural component that ensures food security. The better focus on the technological opportunities, that the National Labour Party will consider the creation of smart cities to concentrate on the technological and digital effort, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is what a St. Lucia Labour Party, realistic, Mr. Speaker, realistic proposals that a St. Lucia Labour Party will implement when we get into government at the next general election. Mr. Speaker, this government has proved its arrogance. It's disrespectful, it's arrogant, it victimizes, it's vindictive. That government has shown it has no respect for the people of St. Lucia. And if you want to see what no respect means, listen to them when they respond to the budget. I can tell you what they'll say. I can tell you. You did this too. Robert Ensworth, Rochamel, what again is it? What again? That's always minister's account. Jufali, minister's account. That's all. Each one of them, particularly one or two of them, that's all they will see. They will not sympathize with the people of St. Lucia. They will not say that, listen to me, we are trying, but the reality is the people are suffering. They will not say, let us embrace, let us form a social partnership, a real social partnership with the people of St. Lucia so that we can alleviate the problems. Because the COVID pandemic is here. We don't know what will happen to it. It's surging in the United States. That's the reality. So you think any of them will embrace it, Mr. Speaker? Each one of them, if any one of them try to do it, they will want to play that each one better than the other. So what will happen is one will try to outdo the other to attack the opposition. These are the instructions they have been given. Outdo each other. Say this, say that, say this. Make them look bad. Because you know, Mr. Speaker, there is not a love for the people of St. Lucia. There is a love for political power. That's what, Mr. Speaker. There is love for politicals. Only what they need, only what they want is political power. Political power by whatever means necessary. And what they do is they cast aspersions. What they do is they say all kind of things, Mr. Speaker, because the situation, Mr. Speaker, they have only just realized that elections are less than a year away. That reality has just hit them. Because they never knew that before. They thought they would have been government forever. They thought they would have been able to bluff and get on and travel all their lives. They did not realize that the day of reckoning is nigh. The day of reckoning is nigh, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I say to the people of St. Lucia, let not your heart be troubled, because redemption is near. The people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker, they know, and all the evidence available shows that the people of St. Lucia understand that redemption is near, Mr. Speaker. The people of St. Lucia understand that mind-bending propaganda by surrogates and paid government agents will not change the reality of their situation. The people of St. Lucia know, Mr. Speaker, that they are the ones who feel the pressure. They are the ones who feel the strain. They are the ones who are suffering from anxiety. They are the ones, Mr. Speaker. They are the ones. Not people who get paid for spreading propaganda. They know that, Mr. Speaker. The people of St. Lucia are aware. And every day, the people of St. Lucia pray. As the Rastaman told me this morning. As he told me this morning, Mr. Speaker, do not try to give medicine to the dead. That's what the Rastaman told me. Because he understands that. And every day, Mr. Speaker, what keeps us going? What keeps us going? Even though they threaten to arrest us. And they threaten all kinds of things. Even they do all kinds of things to arrest members of the opposition. All kinds of machinations. All kinds of things, Mr. Speaker, to arrest members of the opposition. They write letters. They write letters, Mr. Speaker. They write letters to customs officers. They try their best to determine what happens in customs, just to be able to find fault to arrest a member of this opposition. They've tried from 2016, Mr. Speaker. They've tried from 2016 because they understand that the people using state power, Mr. Speaker, you know, they understand, Mr. Speaker, they understand. But we have hope. The people of St. Lucia are hopeful. The people of St. Lucia understand the reality, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as I end in this budget presentation, Mr. Speaker, I want to say to the members of the government, Mr. Speaker, that the longest day has an end. I want to say to them, Mr. Speaker, that I have seen taller cocks crow. Yes. I want to say to them, Mr. Speaker, I have been here before. I have seen more boasting. I have seen more arrogance. I have seen more display of boastfulness and chest beating. Politics, Mr. Speaker. Let me tell you something. The only good thing about politics, it changes, Mr. Speaker. It changes. And every day, Mr. Speaker, is a day in politics. So I want to say to this government, Mr. Speaker, that stay in your Tower of Babel. Enjoy it whilst it lasts. Enjoy it, Mr. Speaker. I also want to say to this government that this Labour Party will protect the electoral system. We will ensure that elections are free and fair, Mr. Speaker. And the manipulation of the electoral system, we are going to fight hard to ensure that you politicians do not get your hand on the electoral system, Mr. Speaker. Do not get your hand on the electoral system, Mr. Speaker. Do not get your hand on the electoral system, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand here today very proud to represent the people of Cashews East, Mr. Speaker. And very proud, Mr. Speaker, very proud to be the leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Mr. Speaker. And, Mr. Speaker, we have in this parliament, Mr. Speaker, a group of men dedicated to the cause of bread, freedom, and justice, Mr. Speaker. And that dedication, Mr. Speaker, will never end. We have put our lives, Mr. Speaker, to protect the people of St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And I end, Mr. Speaker, with a quote from Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States. And he said, Mr. Speaker, he said, to those who cling to power through corruption and deceit and the silencing of dissent, know that you are on the wrong side of history. To those who cling to power through corruption and deceit and the silencing of dissent, know you are on the wrong side of history. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.